Hey everyone, welcome back. We are going to continue with Chayei Sara and study one more midrash to hopefully enlighten the text of the parsha and some ideas that emerge from that midrash on the parsha. The very beginning of the parsha talks about the death of Sarah, and the second pasuk in the parsha says Vatamat Sarah b'Kiryat Arba hi Chevron be'Eretz Canaan, that Sarah passed away in Kiryat Ara, which is Chevron, which is in the land of Canaan. Vayavo Avraham lispod Sarah v'livkota, and Avraham came to eulogize Sarah and to cry for her. And what's a little bit odd about this pasuk is that it says Vayavo Avraham, that Avraham came, implying that, well, Avraham came from somewhere. Well, where was he coming from? Suddenly his wife passed away. Where was he coming from? So there are two answers offered in the Midrash, in Bereshit Rabbah. The first one I think is not as well known. The second one is more often quoted. And I'm not saying everybody's heard of it, but you may have possibly heard of the second part of this Midrash. So let's read it and then let's analyze. Where did he come from? That's the Midrash's question. Where did he come from? Rabbi Levi Amar Mikvurato Shel Terach l'Saraba. From the burial of Terach. Terach was Abraham's father. He was coming from the burial of his father to Sarah's funeral, I guess. Obviously, he had to arrange things, but he got there. He's coming from the funeral of Terach to then deal with the passing of his wife. Amar la Rabbi Yosei. Rabbi Yosei says, Rabbi Levi, I don't know if you've read the text carefully or done the math, but the burial of Terach happened 2 whole years before Sarah passes away. So he wasn't coming from the burial of Terach 2 years. It doesn't take 2 years to get from Haran back to Canaan. So Rabbi Yosef says, where was he coming from? Mehar HaMoriah, from Mount Moriah. And what happened there? That was the story of the binding of Isaac, although she didn't know it was just binding of Isaac. She thought it was a sacrifice of Isaac. Umeita Sarah me'ototzar, and she passed away from that pain that she thought that her only child had been sacrificed. And that's why the parsha last week has the Akedah as the final story, though there is a little bit of an interlude there. I'll let you look that up. And then Chayei Sara, she passes away. It's connected because of what happened on Har HaMoriah, or what she thought happened on Har HaMoriah. There's another midrash elsewhere that talks about that she got news. It was the Malach HaMavet was playing games. Okay, you'll take a look at that. But she passes away from the distress of the situation that happened to her son. And that's where he was coming from. Avraham was coming back from that. The second one, maybe you've heard before. This idea that the Akedah story really caused the death of Sarah. But I don't want to focus on that part of the midrash, which when this midrash is studied, that's the focus always. I want to focus on Rabbi Levi's answer. Because it looks like at the end of the day, Rabbi Levi's answer was rejected. And certainly Rabbi Yosef doesn't accept it. But I think Rabbi Levi was a brilliant scholar. And he probably was aware that Terach, Avram's father, had been buried 2 years before Sarah passed away. So what does it mean that he was coming from Terach's funeral, from his burial? Well, I think we need to understand who Terach was, not just that he was Avram's father, but what if you were Avraham and you were speaking at your father's funeral? What would you say? What would the hesped be? What would the eulogy be? So we don't know much about Terach from the text of the Torah. There are midrashim that talk about he had idols in his house and Avraham didn't like it and he smashed the idols. What we know from the text is that he had 3 sons, one of them being Avraham. And one of those 3 sons passed away. Lot was the child of the son who passed away. And we're told that Vayikach, this is the end of Parshat Noach, Vayikach Terach et Avram beno, that at a certain point in life, Terach took his son Avraham, and Lot, the son of Haran, notice, by the way, not the third son, the other son, the surviving son, did not come along on this journey. Vet Sarai Kalato, Eshet Avram beno, and Sarai came along, the wife of his daughter-in-law, the wife of Avraham, and they left Ur Kasdim, where Terach was from. That's where Avram seems to have grown up and been born. And they went Lalechet Arza Canaan. Now, they were heading out towards Canaan, the land of Israel. Terach was having them journey towards Israel. Vayavo ad Haran vayeshu shava. They didn't go all the way. They ended up stopping in Haran and they settled there. And ultimately, Terach dies in Haran. That's where Avram's father passes away. So it seems interesting here. What do we know about, Terach? What would Avram's hesped have been, given what we know about him? Well, the fact that he takes Avraham towards Canaan is very telling. The Radak, in his commentary on this pasuk at the end of Parshat Noach, says the command of Lech Lecha happened before this. Avraham got the command to go forth when he was in Ur Kasdim, and the Radak said he told his father about it. And his father, whether he fully believed in everything Avraham was saying, I don't know, but to his credit, he then takes Avraham and says, this is your mission, I'll help you get there. Now he doesn't get all the way to Canaan, but he gets them part of the way along the journey. And he took his family, and he took Lot and took Sarah. Didn't take the other son because the other son wasn't interested in this. But he took an interest in what Avraham was passionate about, that God had come to him with a mission to go to Israel, to go to Canaan, and to teach the world about God. And so if you're giving the hesped at Terach's funeral, I would imagine that Avraham would be speaking about how much he appreciates what his father did for him to put him in the position to succeed as a human being, as a messenger of God, even if Terach necessarily wasn't as connected to God as Avraham was. That he would be expressing Hakarat HaTov for the help that he got on his journey, that he wouldn't be where he is today without Terach, without his father, even if they were different. And I think what Rabbi Levi is trying to teach us by saying that he was coming from the funeral or from the burial of Terach was that he's coming from a place of a mentality of when you memorialize someone that you've lost. But the way you do that is by looking to find the things that they have done that help you be the person that you are today, that have helped get you to where you are today. And with that attitude and mentality, he thinks about and remembers Sarah, his wife. What was he going to be maspid? What was the eulogy for Sarah? That she believed in this mission too. The Radak actually mentions it on that pasuk in Parshat Noach that she's called the daughter-in-law of Terach, but then she's called Eshet Avram because she was all in with Avram. We're doing this together, Avram. And she was his partner. The two of them did this together. It was not Avraham alone. And he's appreciating everything that Sarah did for him in his life, the things that they did together, because Avraham would not have accomplished what he did in his life without her. And that's where the tears come from. And I think that is such a special way to remember her. And that's what it means. Vayavo Avraham lispod l'Sarah v'livkota. He came to think about and appreciate what Sarah meant to his life. And he cried because it's special and he's going to miss that. But he remembers her in a way of appreciation. And this teaches us a really important lesson about how we remember people that we lose, loved ones that we may lose, or figures like Rabbi Sachs, who passed away this past Shabbat. How are we going to remember him? And we have to remember him and others that we've lost in our lives by appreciating that we wouldn't be who we are or where we are with certain people in our lives. How many of us would not have as great an appreciation for the weekly Parsha if we didn't read Rabbi Sachs's weekly essay for years? How many of us are appreciating that today about him as we remember him? How many of us look around at loved ones we don't have anymore, but we remember them by appreciating that we wouldn't be where we are, who we are, without them? And I think this Midrash is trying to teach us that this is the approach that is so healthy to take when we remember those that we miss. I hope this message is something we can incorporate into our lives. And I hope everybody has a Shabbat Shalom and is staying safe out there. Be well.